So let's create a basic web page. So as we know that while creating layouts, we use the div tag. So I'm gonna write the div tag and I'm gonna give an ID which will be container. So it is the container of our elements. Then inside this div tag, we will have another div tag with the ID header. Every website should have a header. So this is our header, and inside the header we will have a heading with the text logo. Save the file. You can see logo displayed. We can use the font tag here, font. After logo I'm gonna write the closing font, and the face would be Cooper. Save the file. You can see it has a different font now. I'm gonna add a little bit of CSS which we have learned in our previous video while learning how we can add CSS to our web page. This is nothing critical CSS, so you can relax. I'm gonna write the style tag here, and inside the opening and closing style tag I'm gonna select the body, and here I'm gonna set the margin to 0 and the padding to 0. Save the file. Let's say after this header we have a paragraph where we have some links. So I'm gonna write the anchor tag. It will have hash, that means navigate nowhere, and in between the opening and closing anchor tag I'm gonna write home. Save the file. You can see we have one link. I'm gonna write another anchor tag with a mail option. The mail would be abs@gmail.com and the text would be mail me. By the way, it is a random email address. And then I will have another anchor tag with a call option, and here I'm gonna give the country code, then a number, and the text would be call me. Save the file. You can see we have another two hyperlinks. Let me zoom out our browser to 100%. So this is how our web page will look like to our users. Let me maximize the font size so you can see properly. And in the header div I'm gonna write the style attribute, and here I'm gonna give background color which will be light gray. Save the file. You can see our header has the background color light gray. You can see there is a gap above our header. This is because some elements of HTML has default margin and padding. So to remove that, in between the opening and closing style tag I'm gonna write star, then opening and closing curly braces, then I'm gonna set the margin here 0 pixel. Save the file. Now you can see the gap has been removed. So this is our header. Then we will have another div tag. So I'm gonna write the div tag, and this will have the ID which will be main content. And here I'm gonna give another div tag, and this will have an ID with the text content 1, and here inside the content 1 div we are gonna have another div with the ID image part, and inside this image part div I'm gonna create a h2 with the text my image, and after this h2 I'm gonna write the image tag, and in the src I'm gonna give an image which is available in our first folder. You can see, so I'm gonna give the path of that image // then pic.jpg. The alternative text would be my picture. The width would be 200 pixel. So we have done with the image part div. So inside this content 1 div I'm gonna create another div, and it will have an ID table part, and inside this div I'm gonna have a table which will have table row, and in this table row I'm gonna have a table data cell with the text serial number. Then I'm gonna have another table data cell with the text month. Then I'm gonna have another table data cell with the text tuition fee. Save the file. You can see in the image part div we have this heading, then we have an image, and the table part div is here which contains a table, but this does not feels like a table, so I'm gonna give a border of 1 pixel. Save the file. Now you can see it is a table. Then I'm gonna copy this table row and paste this, and it will have serial number 1, month would be January, fee would be $100. I'm gonna copy this, paste this, the serial would be 2, month February, and the fee would be $120. Save the file. You can see we have more data cells. So inside this main content div, we have this content1 div. This content1 div has two parts. One is image part and another one is table part. So after this content1 div, I'm gonna create another div which will be content2 div. So I'm gonna give the ID which will be content2, or let's say the ID would be aside content. So in between this div tag we will have some sidebar or Google ads maybe. So let's say we have a heading with the text Google ads. Save the file. We have another div where we will show Google ads. So we are done with the main content div. So I'm gonna go outside of the main content div and write another div tag with the ID footer, where we will add the copyright sign with the HTML entity which is ampersand copy then semicolon. Then in a span tag I'm gonna write all rights reserved. Save the file. You can see we have the footer with the copyright sign and the text all rights reserved. In the footer I'm gonna write the style attribute and give a background color light gray. Save the file. You can see our footer has the background color light gray. So creating a simple layout, you can see we have to use the div tag again and again. So this can be a little bit confusing because the div tag is a generic container tag and it has no semantic meaning. That's why in HTML5 some semantic tags were introduced. So while creating the headers, we can use the header tag. So I'm gonna delete the ID and the opening div, and instead of this I'm gonna write header, and I'm gonna close the header here. So it has a more meaning. It is a meaningful tag. So it is recommended to use these semantic tags instead of div. Use divs while you don't have any semantic tag. For example, here the container div, we don't have any container semantic tag. That's why we have to use the div tag. And here we have a div tag with the ID main content. Instead of the div tag, we have a semantic tag in HTML5 which is the main tag. And all the way to the bottom I'm gonna close the main tag here. Save the file. You can see everything is same because under the hood these tags header main does the same job what div tags does. The only difference is the div tag has no meaning. It is used to create divisions in our web page, but these main and header semantic tags does the same job, but these tags has some meaning. And here in the content1 div we can replace this with the article tag, and I'm gonna close the article tag here. This article has two sections. One is image part, another one is table part. So instead of the image part div, I'm gonna write here the section tag, section, and I'm gonna close the section tag here, and I'm not gonna remove the ID attribute from this section tag. I'm gonna make this table part div to a section as well, section, and I'm gonna close the section tag here. So you can see we reduced the use case of the div tag, and here we show aside content like Google ads. So instead of the div tag I'm gonna use the aside tag. I'm gonna close the aside tag here, and I have a footer instead of this footer div, I'm gonna use the semantic HTML tag, which is footer tag. We can give the footer tag here also. And we have another semantic tag, which is nav tag, and where we show some important navigation links of our web page. Here are our important navigation links, which are in between the opening and closing paragraph tag. So instead of the paragraph tags, I'm gonna write the nav tag, closing nav. Save the file, the same output, but the code is now more meaningful. If we don't use these semantic tags and just use the div tag, different developer will give the div tags different ID. So that can be a mess while working with a group. But while you use these semantic tags which have some meaning, then the code will be more readable and more maintainable. It will be a better code overall. So I have a JavaScript file. Let's not focus on that. I'm gonna delete that file. I have a favicon. I'm gonna add that favicon in our web page. So I'm gonna write the link tag favicon. Save the file. It's not showing the favicon. Let me close the browser and relaunch this on the browser. Now it is showing the favicon. So in this video we saw how we can create a simple layout using the HTML semantic tags instead of just using the div tag.